April 10, 2023. This is the 2000 tick chart on the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the Thinkorswim platform. This is what the chart looked like today, and the pre-market sold off. Kind of did a very slow grind, had this crazy knee-jerk reaction, came down, came back up, and then continued the grind. This is how I drew up my charts. So I did try to capture the move in the pre-market with this big trading range and then this trading channel. And I tried to capture this, and at one time I wasn't sure what I had, so I actually cut this guy short, and then I drew the second channel, and then later I extended it out again. It looked like it kind of did fit, but there was this weird overlap here. I only took one trade today. It was a winning trade. There weren't that many setups that I could find. Even then, this is coming off of a holiday weekend, so this is actually there's a little bit of trading right here. This is actually Friday. Markets were closed, but they did open the futures and I think some bond markets briefly to give some economic data. So I didn't take any trades on Friday because I just didn't bother. So let's get into the trades now. Let's get into the trades. You can look down at the description for the timestamps. Oh, before I continue, let me just point out the volume was very, very low because if you look from here to here, this is 1 hour. So I'll just draw a rectangle to just show you what 1 hour looks like from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And you can see how many candles are in here. There's enough to get some entries and some setups. But then if you look at from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, from here to here, it's only this long. And then from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, it's only this. And again, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So there wasn't that much price action going on. And 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock is even smaller. And then, toward the end of the day, usually there's a little more action, people closing out their positions and whatnot. So let me just get rid of those. So the pre-market prices have just kind of started going down. I didn't take any trades, and once the market opened, and even the pre-market, you could see there wasn't that much not much price action moving on. I think it's because it's kind of a effect of the long weekend. People also took today off. I guess they would consider it good Monday. Prices open, it kind of chopped around. I didn't see really a good entry. I mean, you could consider this a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but I didn't really like this just because at the time, I did have this top resistance drawn, and I drew this all the way down here. It kind of fit, but it wasn't enough to convince me that there was a trade that existed. It goes in this choppy trading range. I don't really see anything I like. It did test, down here a couple times, and then it did come up here. Now, this is a pretty nice signal bar. It's also potentially two key entry points here and as well as this trading range. But unfortunately, I didn't see a clean second entry. I only saw a first entry, new low here, and then a first entry, so couldn't take that for me. I did see a potential formed trade here as a new low here, first entry short. There's a second entry short, and I thought this is like forming a second entry failure because it did form above the EMA. This is the first time it's breaking through this trading range, which could potentially also lead to a failed breakout. So it might just come rocketing back down. So I wanted to find a higher low to confirm that it's going to keep moving up. And here I do get my higher low. So when I actually saw this higher low and it confirmed this failed second entry short as a potential reversal as prices are continuing to move up, I did draw this trading channel here. The support I kind of trusted, but I wasn't sure where the top was because I only have 1 point right now. And so I did try to enter this at one tick above this double confirmation right here because I didn't want to take it right here because this is like a triple confirmation. I wanted prices on the next candle to come back and pick me up. And unfortunately, it never did. So I had my order waiting right here for this double top. Thought it would have been safer, come back, touch here, get a little bit closer to the EMA and take off, but it never came back. So unfortunately, I missed that trade. Would have been good enough. I think it might have been good enough for a scalp from down here because it would have been about 41. Let's say counted at 41.09. So I'd only have to get it up to about 41.10 and a quarter. It goes up to about 41.11. So it would have been enough for a scalp. Unfortunately, I wasn't on that trade. Prices continue moving down. I did see this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long, and then a failure. So here I quickly got my order ready and I placed it one tick below here. And the way prices are moving today, because this is a 41.11 and this is 41.099, so it's pretty much only a 12-point move. I wasn't going to be super ambitious, so I was only going for about 6 ticks. And I was able to enter on this entry right here, one tick below this original signal bar. And I also like that this bearish move down was below the EMA, engulfed these 3 previous signal bars, pretty much almost this 4th one. So I thought this might have been a good indication that's moving back into this trading range. So this is considered a failed breakout. Moving back into this trading range, blasted below the EMA, might make it all the way back to the bottom, but I'm not going to pin my hopes on it. And I was able to get out, and then my runner got stopped out on this candle. So it's the one and only trade of the day. I could just actually, since there's only one trade, I could show you without taking up too much time. Yeah, so I entered right here, 41.05. Oh, it's actually a little bit lower. Well, actually, I didn't get as good a fill as I remembered. Okay, and then I got my runner stopped out, pretty much at break even, and then the core. Okay, then prices continue moving. At this point, I do draw this bottom support, and then I drew the top here because it looks like it's touching twice. You could consider maybe a third time, but at least twice. I did see a new high here, first entry long, second entry long, and I'm thinking this could be a second entry long failure because I'm just thinking right now, well, I didn't know what it was at the time. I did see a first entry long, second entry long. I did see a second entry long here, but I didn't take it, and I was waiting to see if it was going to break down and continue touching the bottom here, because it touched the top, and I'm thinking it might come back to the bottom here. So this label doesn't exist yet. Here, then I realized it is a failed second entry long, and I did try to take this trade because it did close. Okay, so it's closing pretty much, you could say it's closed right at the EMA, but I also saw that this trigger bar is pretty bearish. So I try to keep it one tick below this original signal bar right here. So on the next candle, I did try to enter because I thought there's enough drive to maybe move down to the bottom of the trading channel. I missed the trade though because it was right here, pretty much one tick below. This guy never came up to pick me up. As soon as it made and completed the move, I canceled the order because this candle may or may not have picked me up, and then it would have stopped me out. So this is kind of like a quick entry. It didn't work for me. I didn't get filled, but then as soon as I saw prices hit my profit target, I just canceled the order. Prices continue moving up. So I do see this triple test now of this bottom of the channel. So it gives me confidence that this is a support. And this top, I only have 2 confirmations at this point. If you drew it differently, maybe you have a third one here, but only 2 in my book, kind of a little bit sketchy. It fails to make it to the top. I see a new high. I saw a first entry long and I saw a second entry long. I wanted to take this, but this candle isn't the best because it closed toward the bottom. And if it had a better signal bar, I think I would have taken it because it bounced off of not only the EMA, but it would have bounced potentially off the midline here. So unfortunately, it didn't form quite right, so I had to let it go. Prices continue moving up, comes back down, and makes this very, very sharp drop. Now, at the time when I saw this, I did count this as a new high. I'll go all the way down here. I saw first entry long, then I saw second entry long. I saw this in real time, but what I didn't know and I didn't take into account yet was this is coming in to the bottom or the low in the pre-market, which is this gray line here. So technically, it's a pretty strong support. I saw it, I didn't take that into account. Now, did I see it bounce off from the pre-market low? It's a pretty decent signal bar. Let me go back in. So this signal bar is this guy right here because I'm doing the second entry long. It's a pretty decent signal bar. There's enough room to the EMA. And excuse me, it's the first break of this shortened trend channel. So it broke up. It might make 2 moves up, and then I'm thinking it might come back down. So there's a little bit of conflicting thought. Is it enough power to make a second leg up, or is it just going to start turning back down? But in hindsight, as I said, it bounced off here. It might be enough to at least make it back to the EMA. So I thought it was a little bit risky. But I also saw after the fact that it was probably a pretty reasonable, strong resistance because it could have been the midline of this trading range. Let me just go ahead and make it appear. So the midline of this trading range is right here. And so it could have been still in play, maybe if I extended it further out. But I saw that, I wasn't sure, and I said, I'm going to wait for a higher low. Prices come down. I see the higher low here. Now, this is a confirmation of the second entry long. It's closer to the EMA now, so that gave me pause. I said, oh, well, I don't know if I have enough room to actually get up to here now. So I actually skipped that. But in hindsight, again, I think it would have been my second chance to actually get in on that trade. And as you can see, it would have worked out really, really well, even with a runner, because prices would have just, you could have just dragged the runner maybe one tick behind each swing, and it would have worked out pretty well. So unfortunately, I didn't see that and recognize it in real time, and that trade just kind of went without me. Then prices just kind of chopped sideways, staying above the EMA. It's testing the top of this trend channel now. And this big overshoot comes back in. I'm wondering if it's going to have an overshoot at the top, and it kind of does, but not very convincing. And it comes back, EMA is holding. I don't see any good second entries at this point. Prices continue moving down. So this is where things got a little confusing for me, because I said this channel might not be necessarily in play. So I drew the second one, which kind of touched once, touched twice, and it kind of looked like it was fitting within this channel pretty well. As you can see, it kind of touched it a couple times. It's respecting the top and bottom. I did see the new high here, first entry long, second entry long, but when this formed, I didn't like this signal bar. Then the next candle, it formed pretty well, but I didn't want to take it at the top of here because I wasn't sure if there was just enough room or if it would actually break the most recent high. So I just sat and just waited. Granted, there is a first entry long, second entry long. You consider this a higher low above the EMA. I saw that as well, but just the way it was reacting, and if I were to take an entry above this guy, or if I waited for this guy to close, it puts me even closer, because my entry would have been here, puts me even closer to the previous high of day. And I just didn't think that was, in my book, it just didn't feel right. And so I had to let it go. Prices continue moving. Then I do see a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. Now this is actually probably a pretty decent trade that I missed because it bounced off of, but at the time I also didn't have it extended all the way out here. I kind of cut it off roughly about here because I was playing with this channel at this point because it looked like it kind of did a spike in a channel. I didn't extend this in time to see that it was bouncing right off of it, unfortunately. And this turns out, I mean, it wasn't even a good signal bar right here because it looks pretty neutral. If this had closed a little bit more bullish, more of a hammer up here, I think I might have taken it for the chance that it would have gotten up here. Plus this candle is pretty small, so the risk was pretty small. But again, I saw this, I wasn't quite sure. It's below the EMA, I just decided to let it go. And it looks like it would have worked out pretty well because this channel is in play, and for some reason, not for some reason, but it looked like this channel is also in play. So there's like two overlapping channels. And this has been respected, this highlighted blue one, several times at the bottom and several times at the top. So in hindsight, I think this is a potential trade that I missed out on. And then prices continue chopping around. I do see like some second entries, but not really good setups because this would be new high, first entry long right here. Second entry, this is a so-so signal bar. It's kind of in the middle of this range. Again, I'm not sure which trading channel is in play. Maybe both, but more like which one's going to dominate. So I kind of left this one alone. Prices just kind of kept moving. I decided, you know what? It's probably just going to be one trade for the day. Just continue watching. And it just kind of got choppy toward the end and it rallied. So as you can see, this is only 10 minutes right here from here. And it's definitely past, any time that I want to take a trade in case I'm wrong. There's not enough time to make it back. I mean, you could say there's a new low here. I saw this as a first entry short, second entry short, but would you really want to take a short right into here? And then there's no failure that forms to take it long. So you would have had to just wait. And there is a lower high here, first entry short, second entry short, and then potentially a lower high here. I also potentially saw this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's a pretty decent signal bar, but this is kind of late in the day again. So if this had set up earlier, I probably would have considered taking it because it gives me a nice key entry point here. And even off the second trend channel, it's like two key entry points plus the EMA. It's a pretty decent trade. But again, it's just kind of too late in the day for me, unfortunately, because it looked like it would have worked. Probably just on this next candle would have gotten your scalp. And then you would have been safe if you kept your entry like right, pretty much at break even, and you probably would have ran it up. But again, Context wise, time of day just wasn't, I just wasn't feeling it. So overall, trading was very, I would say, slow today. There were some setups. Two of them I missed because I didn't get filled, and one of them I did get filled. It wasn't my most favorite trade, but it did work out. And that's kind of how I saw it today. I think tomorrow things should pick up because overall volatility and volume were kind of low today. So hopefully that helped.